film is Ouroboros and we've got some audience feedback after our class watched it.
People thought that it was initially a romance film, as the main character Jess was sat there like in her pyjamas and drinking wine with some like fancy music type thing on, and that wasn't exactly how we pictured it. But
And then as the scene progresses, Jess gets a phone call from her boyfriend Terry, and the line was, "Come in when you get in." So you initially feel like it's going to be Terry who walks through the door, but it isn't, it's the masked killer. So as that scene progresses on further, you see the cross-cutting between Jess and the killer, so you can see the killer coming closer to Jess, and that the fact Jess is oblivious to what's going on because she's expecting it to be Terry.
Yeah, we also said that the fact that you see someone come in, you don't know if it's going to be Terry or not because the person's wearing a mask, so it leaves it quite ambiguous for the audience to figure out who it is. And also, we did it through like a number of different ways. Like the music started going a lot more dull and more intense when he walked in to obviously add to the scene.
Yeah, people said that the cross-cutting also made it intense because you're anticipating something happening.
Okay, so for the next part, we asked people to look at the enigma and how it engaged the audience.
With the killer being masked, it shows that it has a hidden identity, so within the story, the audience are trying to find out who the actual killer is. And with the next scene, by having 5 people, there's like quite a few people to decode and see why their intentions would be to kill Jess.
Yeah, so it doesn't quite show who it is because there's so many different people it could be to guess from.
Yeah, and then people talked about the quick pace and that it continues all throughout the film, which is good because obviously everyone stays interested.
One of the questions was asked was why she was killing in the first place, and it isn't really, we don't really go into much detail of why she starts it, but there's obviously the loop of when she kills one person, someone says something negative, that triggers her to kill again, so it like creates a cycle.
and that like links into our name of the film, as Ouroboros is actually meaning of a dragon eating itself, so it's like a cycle that constantly goes as it's eaten, it's grown again, and then it makes it relevant to the actual film.
After this, we asked people to look at the positives in our film, so what they liked about it.
So the music reflected the genre and the change. We always knew something was going to happen when the music got more intense and upbeat, and it created the atmosphere and it helped people follow the plot of the film.
Another positive people found was the actual lighting of how we, when the film was shown a dark moment, the lighting actually reflect that, so it was shown slightly a bit more intense. For example, in Holly's part where she's in the bedroom, we was trying to show different days, so we shut the blinds slightly so it gave off a different lighting to show that, and also it showed that it was fine when she was on the FaceTime and everything, but as soon as I mentioned that it was disgusting, the lighting changed.
Then also the use of props, where we had, with the opening scene, Jess was in her pyjamas, it was very realistic, and with the magazines, and obviously you could show that she was relaxing and waiting for her boyfriend. And also with the killings, they were posted on social media, such as Facebook, and it kind of represents teenage, with the characters, the audience can relate to them, and that the fact that they use social media as well, whereas these videos have been posted on social media, people are able to access them and view them, so it kind of gives off the whole everyone can see.
Yeah, we also said about the fact that the props were so simple and things that the audience could relate to, was that it kind of showed that the killer herself was quite young and naive and amateur, because she didn't really have great weapons or anything. She was doing them in quite a normal way, with things that everyday people would have. So we didn't go too wild with the props we used. We used normal things that the audience could relate to. After this, we asked the audience to look at the cinematography and comment on that.
Yeah, a lot of people commented on the angles, like the cross-cutting of the scene, like in the bit at the first scene where you've got the killer coming in the door and Jess sat on the sofa. It cross-cuts between them both, and it shows like that it's showing you both sides of what exactly is happening.
And also that the audience know a lot more than the character does, so when you can see the killer coming up to Jess, Jess doesn't know still, because obviously she's expecting that the door being opened was actually Terry coming in.
Some people commented on the flash cuts in our scenes and said that it made it quite unrealistic because it was quite jumpy and that it was like editing fixes that we needed, but we kind of couldn't because our film was so long originally anyway. We had to cut it down, so we tried to like remove things that weren't really relevant or not really that like needed in the scenes.
Some people said it was nicely edited because it makes the killing seem much more realistic and like it could actually happen to anyone.
With the time shift to show how time's progressed, people they were saying in the feedback that they were having difficulties understanding when the time shift has happened. So what we were trying to do was, with each scene of passing, we'd have like the lighting, and we'd change the lighting and the atmosphere to the room. So say we had the blinds closed slightly, we wanted to represent that it was actually night time, but still have lighting in order so the audience could view the characters and see them. Then with like the day, we'd have like natural lighting, so sometimes we were filming in the day without any added light.
Yeah, I think even though it was a problem though, like sometimes it's kind of a good thing because even though it was quite jumpy, it meant that the audience were trying to guess, like, because it was so fast paced, it was like they're trying to take in new information while they were trying to work out what was happening. So it didn't mean that it was like you had so long to kind of work out. It was like you were finding out as the film was happening, which was something people commented on as a good thing. The final thing we asked people to look at was what we could have improved on for our film.
People didn't understand how the killer was actually filming her own killings, but it's supposed to be like the audience is supposed to be like a third person on looking onto it so you can experience it along with the characters in the film.
Yeah, and if we didn't do it that way, I think that the problem would have been that the editing was really boring anyway and people would have probably commented on it.
And then also that with editing, we'd have to cut quite a lot out of it, because then if we filmed every single camera angle of a prov shot, then it'd be quite difficult to edit and then also to piece it all together and make sure that our film stayed within the guidelines of the time that we had to be in.
Yeah.
Another improvement people were saying about is that they didn't understand the final scene of Holly actually pinning me to the board, and that's basically all we were trying to do was leave it open-ended but indicate that there was going to be another death, but it was also left up to the audience on how they wanted to interpret it.
Trying to make it like as easy as possible for people to understand that Holly was actually the killer, and that with the pin board she was pinning the next victim because they had said like with the words "that's disgusting" and didn't agree with what she does, which is filming killings. So it kind of goes back with our Ouroboros title, where it's a repeat and a loop. So it kind of, when it's open-ended, Olivia may not be the last character. There could be many other characters after Olivia.
Yeah, I think it was good that we didn't like end it on an actual killing because it was kind of the big reveal at the end, which showed it was obviously Holly. So I think it worked better that way than ending it on a killing instead.
And some people did say that they liked the twist of that Holly was the killer, and that it was also open-minded so the audience could interpret what they wanted and what they thought of what was actually going to happen at the end.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.